So this video is going to be on evaluating rabbits at different ages. One of the most common questions I've seen over the years in the rabbit community is when to evaluate rabbits, what to evaluate on rabbits at certain ages, specifically so people can hard cull at younger ages. This is something that I see people are really uncomfortable with quite a bit. They just don't really trust their evaluation skills, especially if you're not good at posing. That will make it much harder. So I'm going to show you the way I go about it. I'm not saying it's the only right way. There's a million different ways to do this. This is just how I do it and what I find works best with my lines. Now, not everything I'm going to show you will be my lines. Some of it, one half is my line and the other half is like a new introduction, or maybe I'm only on like second generation of breeding that line in, so I'm still learning stuff about it, and I will point those things out and kind of tell you how I will go about doing evaluating on those, because I do tend to grow them out longer to learn as much as I can if the cage base is available. So I have a lot of different ages right now, so I should be able to show you guys a good variety of what I look at. First off, we're going to start off with 3 to 4 week old babies. Some of y'all might think, like, what can you even tell them? You can tell a couple things, not a whole lot, but honestly the main point of it is to get them table manners. If you don't handle them at all until they're like 8 weeks, they can be little savages. And I personally don't want to deal with that. So I like bringing them out, getting my hands on them getting used to it, and I'll show you a couple things that you can point out. So without further ado. Okay, so this is a 4-week-old litter. It's technically an Eco-Rex litter. It's out of an F1 Eco-Rex/Rex Shigudi doe, and the buck was a small broken red New Zealand. I'm gonna pull out a couple of them, but this is the first one I'm pulling out. Cute little baby. It's 4 weeks old. Like I said, a lot of this is just teaching them some table manners, them getting used to being touched, getting posed up. What I look for at this age, especially if they're not Rexford, right, is the fullness of them. And I don't even mean like muscle fullness necessarily, but if you have babies at this age that are like kind of scrawny, gangly, I find that they tend to stay like that. There's something going on that has made them like that. Maybe they were just the runt, maybe they didn't get enough milk growing up, maybe they got something going on inside, like maybe some kind of parasite. I don't know. I just find that they're not really worth growing out. And if you have a way of disposing of young rabbits, then you should. I feed mine to my snakes, so very easy. So what I'm looking at on this baby is A, how easily it poses up. Very little effort to do so. I really like its length of body. It does peak early, so one of these things that you have to keep in the back of your mind is what parents look like. So mom is very rounded, squared. It's a very ugly top line, but she has a very full loin. And dad was weird too. He was really round. I didn't keep him for very many litters. He just wasn't all that great, and he was a small New Zealand, so kind of pointless. But I made this litter specifically because they carry shaded and they carry non-extension, and I'm trying to get my Eco-Rex stable points. So overall, I think this baby's pretty cute. I haven't sexed it yet, which at this age is when I start sexing for like more for sureness. They're still pretty small, but I'll take a look. She is very nice and full in the back. Very full up top. Nice short shoulder. Like everything looks like it's supposed to, except like I said, the top line. It's a little rounded, peaks a little early, but I would expect that from these parents. So the last one I sexed once I paused it. It's a buck, so that's nice. This is a broken. There's 2 brokens and 3 solids, I think. It's broken right off the bat. It feels a little smaller to me, but not scrawny in the sense like it's a girl. She is still full, but her stature is a little small. And that could be just she grew a little slower. It could be maybe some of the genetics, because my Eco-Rex have Mini Rex, Florida White. It's mostly Florida White and Rex. The mom, who, like I said, is the F1 Eco-Rex/Rex, she, I guess, is like 25% Rex, 50% Florida White, even though she's like 7.5 pounds. She's not small. I mean, small for a Rex, but big for my Eco Rex. Anyways, this little doe, she's fighting more than that buck was to pose. She peaks a lot more earlier. It's definitely more round, and you can see she peaks earlier and then she starts to slope off. It's maybe not as apparent visually because she is so small. It can be kind of hard to tell, but I can feel it. And she has regular fur, so it's a little more fluffy than Rex fur. But I would almost guarantee around 6 to 8 weeks old, that's going to be really apparent, and it'll be something that I cull for. We don't want like a doorstop illusion. Something peaking that early is really hard to correct unless you have something that peaks wonderfully or even peaks late to help correct that. But I mean, that's really early. And then the sloping off, that we're talking about spine structure, and I would guess to say that the loin carriage would not be that great on this rabbit either, just based off what the parents are. So you probably see a lot of loin carriage around the peak, maybe like pretty center back, which is not what we want. We want it over the hip, right? So I'm not going to cull this doe today, but I already have mentally in my head that around 6 weeks she will likely be a cull. Now I'm going to pull out the one other broken and see if I feel the same way about that one. Okay, I had it backwards. There's 2 solids, 3 brokens. This is another doe. She feels more like the first one, a little fuller, a little bigger, a little more crazy. Let's pose her up. Shaped a lot more like the first one, which, you know, I like better than the second one. She is still very round, but again, I expect that with the parents. The peak isn't so prominently forward because she is so round. I don't really know where she peaks. That is something that's annoying about the round spines. Round spines in general are just hard to fix. You're talking about changing the skeletal shape. It's not as, I don't want to say simple as moving the muscle, because that's hard too, but changing their bone structure, it's difficult. That's all I'm going to say about it. This girl is also way more narrow in the foot base than the other two, and you can see it. You can see it right there. She's almost so narrow that it's a little pinched. For what I want in this project, I already know that once again this will likely be a cull. Now I'm not going to do it on video, but I'm going to pull out the rest that I haven't evaluated and to see if there's anything that's worth keeping beyond that first buck. Okay, I lied. I'm going to do some of it on video. I pulled out the last broken. She was a wild child, so I'm glad I was able to pull her out, get her some table manners, but I will also probably not keep her. Another really early pose, really slides off. This is the last one. It's another buck, of course, both solid chestnuts are bucks. And he's quite a bit more refined in bone. So he's quite a bit smaller. Now, I have been struggling with finer bone in my Eco Rex, and a lot of that was improved this past generation with breeding Florida White in again, but some of it is my Eco Rex right now are a little too big for my goal, which is 5.5 to 6.5 pounds as seniors. So because of that, I might try to grow out this buck. He's really deep. He peaks a lot, the same like the other one. Honestly, I don't know if I'll keep any of this litter. I want to in the sense because of the color aspects, but I'm a type above everything else, and so something will have to go really wrong, or something will have to go really right with them to make me want to keep them. Anyways, so let's move on to 6-week-old rabbits. They're either going to be 6 or 7. I'll find them. So I actually have like 4 or 5 6-week-old litters, so I'm going to pull out one from each one probably just to show you, since there will be different quality, different breeds, etc. First up is a little sable from a California doe and an F1 Cal/Rex buck. Now, I made several of these this generation and decided just to keep the sable since they're not guaranteed Rex carriers. with the idea that I would be getting rid of the California does. So try to keep these things in mind when we're evaluating the cows. Since they're the color I didn't want, they would probably have been the better ones. I nest box culled them though. So this dude is a dude, 6 weeks old. The mom peaks a little early, but she is very deep, very full. And the dad peaked pretty good, pretty full loin. Wasn't that deep though. So let's see what we got here. At this age, so this is a regular furred. Eventually I will show you Rex fur, I promise. But this is a regular furred. This guy is round and does peak pretty early. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's pretty round. Not impressed with this guy at all. I will say his frame has a nice width to it, but he has that roundness, and the little bit of loin that he's already grown in is really forward, and that's not something that I want. You know, we want loin over the hips. And considering that the parents are pretty decent, this is not something I would keep. And so, that being said, this is something that I would hard cull for. And in fact, I'm going to separate them and cull them right after I'm done with this video. So, if you're not used to posing, or you're not used to how your lines grow, or you're still learning or whatever, I wouldn't suggest culling this early. But I feel very confident in my evaluation skills, and I'm quite certain this buck is not going to turn into anything good except a tasty meal. And I don't want to grow him out just for that, so he's going to be snake food for me. So I was just going to do one from each litter, but that litter only had 2 anyways, 2 sables. So this is a doe, and I like her much, much better. She's a little longer in type, but they're going to be big rabbits. They're probably going to be like 9 to 10 pound rabbits, so it's not like really alarming. It's not like gangly long. She's gonna be long when she gets older, just because. And I feel pretty certain that she will have the depth and width to balance it. Now she pushes out these back feet a little. Some of that's because of the little baby belly she's got going on. Some of it is just because she probably does. It does look like she slopes off some. She's also like losing baby coat a little, so the fur is kind of weird. But I think you can see well enough. She's round. She rounds more than I would like, but it's decent. I mean, I'm trying to get my Sable Rex program started. It's been kind of a tough ride, so I'm gonna take what I can get. She's a lot better than the buck. I have a few more in the nest boxes, but yeah, she'll probably be a keeper. I like her mom a lot, so I don't know if she'll be as good as mom, but fingers crossed. Okay, so this is a 6-week-old broken red New Zealand litter. Again, only 2 babies. Mom wasn't, I don't know if she just didn't get her milking right away, or if she just wasn't a very good mom. She's an older doe that I did not produce. I bought her during convention. She's bred again, so hopefully we'll have better luck the next one. So this is a doe. Dad was the small broken red to that first litter I pulled out. His top line was not impressive at all, and he was only 7.5 pounds. I kind of regret buying him, but you know, when you buy off pictures around convention, it can be hit and miss, so it is what it is. Anyways, this doe is pretty cute. Now, I decided to breed New Zealands because I keep mixing them in with my Rex, and I've just kind of have a love for the New Zealands now, and a certain kind of respect for them. And I'm trying to do every color of them, but I'm still kind of new to learning how they grow. I know they grow faster than Rex generally, but they also mature slower. It's a 6th class breed, and usually what I would see on a Rex, like loin formed on a Rex, is more like around 4 to 4.5 months. And I've noticed like you don't really see that formation on New Zealand's till like 5 to 5.5 months. You know, not that much of a difference, but comparing the two, you might cull something a little too early on a New Zealand if you didn't know that. So this girl, She is more round, but not too bad. Like her mom is there. She's really nice. Probably one of the nicest reds I've ever seen on a New Zealand. She peaks pretty good. She rounds pretty nice. She has a good width throughout. She has a really nice length. She's pretty full in the butt. Her feet are a little more narrow than, like I'd like to see them a little wider, but they're definitely not bad at all. Yeah, my biggest complaint about her is that her top line's a little round. But for 6 weeks old, I think she's pretty good. Since I don't know these lines, this is a litter that I would probably grow out at least till 12 weeks, if not to 16 weeks. It depends how everything else is growing and how like attached I am to a project. I have a few other red stuff going on New Zealand wise, so if I found like a different litter was doing better and this one was just doing trash, probably just trash them. But it was my only red litter, I'd probably definitely would want to grow them out longer just to make super sure. But now I will pull out her brother. So this is her brother. It's a buck. Something I will say that I'm new to the whole red New Zealand thing, and I thought the red was really nice on these and on their mom, and they're not bad. But I recently got a red New Zealand from Brink's Rabbitry, and the red on that rabbit and her babies are just next level, and it really puts these guys to shame. So I'll be looking forward to breeding those together and really making a nice red. I'm not too big on color, but I'm trying to focus on it somewhat more. May only be 10 points, but I don't know. It seems important to everyone else, so maybe I'll try. So this is the buck. He does peak a little more forward than the doe. I would say he's not as round as the doe. So he peaks right here and then slopes off. Get those little feet down. He has good width as well, not as well as the doe. His feet are a smidge more narrow. He's not as quite as full in that loin. Now some of this might be, I've noticed that sometimes bucks mature at a different rate than does. Again, I don't know these lines, so we'll find out. Right there, you see his base width, his frame looks pretty nice, but his loin is quite empty. And some of that also might be loin carriage. It feels like he has a lot of it around that peak in the center. Not something I want, especially my New Zealands. New Zealands are, the reds are probably not as, how would I put this? The reds are not as established as like the whites and the blacks. But in general, New Zealands are very nice. Like, I would want to keep my standards high because I know what is available out there, and like my whites and my broken New Zealands are very nice, and I'd rather breed them into the reds and improving that way than keeping something kind of substandard. So I probably won't keep this buck, especially since I have another litter with 4 really good bucks, and I don't know, I know at this point some people would discuss like grow it out to sell it to someone that might need it. I have a tough time with that thought process, just because like for me, I would want to cull this, like terminally cull it. So I have a tough time wrapping my head around why would I want to sell it. But I know some people, maybe they can't afford the more expensive stuff, or maybe it's a location thing. So we'll see how I feel about it. It is a really good season to sell New Zealand's because market and all that stuff, and with the economy the way it is, more people are probably going to want to get into raising rabbits and all that. So I'm not going to cull him this week, or maybe even 8 weeks. We'll see how I feel at 12 weeks about it. Okay, so this is another 6-week-old litter. This is an F1 litter. It's a New Zealand to a Rex. It's from Hand Painted Jewel and my Brindle Rex Buck Jaguar. Hand Painted Jewel is just a really all-around nice rabbit. She has really great width, great size. I did her in my video from yesterday. Just a really nice rabbit, really good condition, really firm, really good bone. Jaguar, on the other hand, he is a little on the small side. Again, I'm still trying to come back from the mini Rex, and his dad was very petite. He was only a 6-pound Rex buck, so his kids are a little on the small side too. Jaguar has a really deep loin, but it's a little funky. It's kind of like a box. It's not as full as his brother Bentley, so that's why I bred him to Hand Painted Jewel. Wanted to get his depth of loin, but her fullness of loin on the babies, and more size, the nice length of body, the bone. You know, Jaguar was only kind of for the color, the Rex fur, and the depth of loin. And so yeah, it's a 6-week-old buck. I don't remember if I stated this earlier, so I'll state it again to be clear. At 6 weeks, they have a little bit of loin that's came in, but not a lot. So we're not really looking at the depth of loin. Maybe fullness. It does seem like fullness comes in first and then depth, and then it's kind of back and forth as they age. But really what you're looking at 6 weeks is the shape of their top line. This is the shape of their skeleton. And when I'm talking about peak, that is where their spine peaks. It's not where their loin peaks. It's where, get out of here, spider. It's where their back literally peaks, and then it starts to round over the hip. So this cute little guy, he has a little bit of loin, but that's not what I'm looking at right now. That's something we'll look at more at 8 weeks and at 12 weeks. Right now we're really looking at the spine shape. And this guy, he's more round than I would like, but I do see the improvement from his mom on him. I would say his peaks right here, and then slopes off. Well, rounds. It's a little bit of sloping, but rounds. I think when his loin comes in, it won't be so much sloping. Where this guy does have from his mom, he's got really nice frame width, and his loin is actually pretty full for only being 6 weeks old. He's got a pretty nice bone. Calm down, calm down. You can see his little feet. He's got really nice pads on him. Pretty good sized bone for a little bitty baby. His head looks pretty good. It's also at 6 weeks. You would definitely, you know, it's more apparent on Rex. Snipey heads. If you struggle with bone, snipey heads would be something that you would see and be like, I probably want to cull that. You know, that's a skeletal based thing. You're not waiting for muscle to come in to fix it. This guy has a pretty nice little head. Yeah, so my only real complaint about this guy is that he's a bit round. I'll definitely keep growing him out. I'm going to look at his 2 other siblings off video and see how I feel. Obviously, Hand Painted Jewel is new to me. I'll be growing these guys out quite a bit since I do love that rabbit so much and I want to know as much as I can. And they're all showable in New Zealand. It's 2 blacks and a broken black, so I'm going to grow them out and show them and all that. So, yeah. Okay, I lied again. I'm going to show you this little buck. This is the brother of the black that I just had. And his spine is much more impressive. He has that really straight rise. It still peaks a little early, but it looks a lot more like his mom. It's not as round as like his dad, which is really what I want to see. Again, we're looking at the shape of the skeleton, not really looking at the loin. Now, his loin is definitely not as wide as his brother. I can kind of feel the depth on it, but again, they're 6 weeks old. They're not going to have a whole lot of a lot of loin right now. We're looking at the skeleton shape. I like how structurally deep he is right now. So he's tall, and the lower loin he has coming in, and as he grows in general, he's going to be even taller. At this age, a really good idea of what you want to keep depth-wise, in my book, is if they are as deep as their ears are tall. This guy's little ears, it's almost the same. Now you might have donkey ears on your rabbits, and you know, then that's not as easy to tell. Or you might have itty bitty ears, like on a mini Rex or something, and maybe that's not a good way to tell. But in general, I feel like it's a kind of a good idea to like think about it that way. This guy also is not as wide as the other guy, but still definitely wide enough. His feet are definitely more narrow. That he gets from his dad. Yeah, I think this guy's going to end up being really nice, and the other one might just end up being a colt. Or, I don't know. We'll see how they grow out. I don't know how they're going to grow out. These lines are new to me. Okay, so last one from Hand Painted Jewels litter. I'm pretty disappointed. All 3 are bucks. That stinks. This guy is like a mesh of the first 2. He does have a better top line than the first one, but he's definitely not as definedly peaked as that second one. He's definitely more round. His feet are definitely pretty narrow, but he has pretty nice width. Again, this is something I'm trying to fix in my Rex. They're on the smaller side, and oh, come on, little baby. That's pretty nice tushy. Not as deep as the second one. The second one's probably gonna be like, the one that I keep for my herd. But again, gonna grow them all out, and we'll see. Okay, so this is gonna be a nice comparison because what I have here, it's an Eco-Rex. It's an F1 Florida White / Eco-Rex. It's also 6 weeks old, but it's gonna be a good comparison in the sense that it's a compact breed, but they're posed the same way as commercial. I evaluate them the exact same way. They're just smaller. So at 6 weeks, again, we're still only just kind of looking at structure, looking at bone. I haven't worked with these guys at all yet, so they're a little wild. They're out of ADM Daphne and Hera's H608, which that was the Florida White. Daphne is a very good doe, but she does not produce as well as she is. I've gotten keepers out of her. They're just never as good as her, which is disappointing. So hopefully these guys are decent. Daphne is very fine bone, very, very fine bone. And the Florida White buck was pretty nice bone for, just a little guy. And I can see on these guys that their bone's a lot better. So I'm happy about that. Oh, but this guy's so cute. Really nice straight rise. Peaks right here. Turns over. Does he peak a little early? I would say so. I think when the loin comes in a few weeks, he'll look probably a little better. I think he probably carries it pretty well because you can feel the loin, the tiny little loin in here. And it's definitely sitting right in here, which is where we want. He's a cute little guy. And this is a good example of his ears are quite a bit longer than his top line. So probably maybe not the best way to go off of it on this guy. What's interesting is that he's almost the size of the other growths that I pull out, and that's kind of the important thing about the Eco-Rex is that my goal with them is at 14 weeks they hit 4 to 4.5 pounds, which isn't that far behind a lot of Rex, which a lot of people try to hit 5 pounds at 12 weeks. Obviously the gold standard for meat breeds is 5 pounds at 8 weeks. That's incredibly tough to do. Not impossible, but tough. So with the Eco-Rex, yeah, trying to hit 4 to 4.5 pounds at 14 weeks, but then after that, they considerably slow down. They only reach 5.5 to 6.5 pounds by 6 months. So a lot less feed goes into them. I also like to see at this age sometimes just how well they'll sit for a pose. Like I said, I haven't worked with these guys at all. He was just kind of the calmest one in the cage, but he sits pretty. His head's not as snipey as his mom, so like I said, I've been trying to fix the bone there, so I'm happy with that. I like for being regular fur, I think the fur's pretty short, which is something that we really saw in the Hera Florida Whites, is the fur was short and dense. It was nice. Not something that you see a whole lot of, I feel like, in Florida Whites, but I don't have a ton of experience with them. Little dirty paws. I haven't even sexed this. Hopefully it's a buck. And it's a buck, yay. There's 6 of these guys, and they're all white, so I won't be able to tell them apart until I tattoo them, and I don't feel like doing that today. I'll pull out one more, just so, for comparison's sake, and then we'll move on to 8 weeks. So this guy's a buck as well, and I picked him out because he's actually the scrawniest one of the 6. So we're going to see if he's scrawny enough that I should cull him, or maybe I should keep him. Bone-wise, he's definitely more finer boned than that first one I pulled out. He does not have as much loin already. Again, they're only 6 weeks, so I'm not super harsh about that, but let's see how his top line looks. I mean, it's cute. It's a little bit more round than I would like, but it's not bad. Now where he does shine, I think he has pretty nice face width, or frame width overall. Okay, it's pretty nice. Part of me wants to cull him, but that Hera buck is new to me. I have several litters by him right now, but I haven't grown any of them out to know the extent of what those genetics do. I know he said that that buck really shined later in life, so I don't know. I guess we'll just wait and see. The Ika Rex are ones that I do not mind growing out longer, because they are the ones that I do want to butcher for me specifically, just because that's the point of the project. And so there's data to be had and all that. I don't like how fine boned this guy is and just how scrawny, but maybe he'll get better when he gets by himself in the cage. Maybe it's hard work fighting amongst all them other kids. Anyways, on to 8 weeks. Alright, we're finally at 8 weeks. Finally have some Rex fur to show you guys. The litter's been kind of weird with the baby fur. I don't know, it's been like falling out quicker than the other fur could come in. So he looks a little scrawny, but he's the most promising of the litter. I'm pretty excited about him. He's a black orange tri, he's a buck. He's quite full, like I don't even got to pose him. Like you can see, it's pretty full. He's got pretty blocky head. His ears are pretty thick. That's another pretty good indicator of bone. Little front feet are decent sized. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with him so far. He's these guys are F2 New Zealand Rex. So dad is Jaguar again, to a broken black F1 Rex / New Zealand. There's not a whole lot of line breeding done here, so that's something to keep in mind. I haven't worked with these guys very much either. As you can see, he wants to pick up his head. So something that we're looking at for 8 weeks. It's not just the shape of the top line now. They should have some loin growing in, so it has changed the top line shape some. And we want to see where it's being carried. So this little guy, I really like how straight he comes up. It's really nice. It's deep. It rounds a little too much afterwards, but I think as he gets older, it might be nicer. Yeah, see, it rounds there a bit and then down. Not too surprised with how the parents look. Yeah. So something at this age, can't on this guy, but starting to look at Rex fur. Just, sometimes a good indicator is the fur between their eyes. My lines, specifically the ones that I would consider ADM lines, they have horrid baby fur, and they molt out into like completely different kind of fur around 12 weeks. And that might be what I'm seeing a little bit happen here. I don't know. This guy has pretty nice width. I like how full he is in the loin already. So his frame's nice, and his, it's pretty nice. That is something I don't have a lot of in my Rex furred animals right now, so I'm definitely happy to make it. That's that New Zealand coming through. Oh, well, I don't know. Grandma, who was ADM Jenny, she's very full. So, yeah. I also like this guy's color. Again, it's hard to tell because the weird fur. It'll end up looking better. I promise. I can't wait to show him. I wish he would sit a little more still, but only 8 weeks. I haven't worked with him a whole bunch because it's been cold. He's cute. I'm excited for him. I only kept 3 from that litter because it was a lot of regular fur, and most of them were blues and blacks and things like that. They just didn't really have the type to keep. This guy is regular fur, and he is a buck, but he should carry EJ. If nothing else, he carries non-extension. I thought he was shaped pretty well. I wouldn't mind showing him as a blue New Zealand. His loin has came in now since the last time I looked at him 2 weeks ago. He looks a little more defined peak-wise. His loin is coming in. And, I mean, you can get your fingers up there and feel it. He's got a lot of depth, like right through here, which is the middle of his back. We want it more over here. Now, loin doesn't all grow proportionally and all that. So, I think I mentioned this earlier, I find that they grow width and depth and width and depth, and then it starts to kind of grow together at a certain age. Right now, at this point, I find that between 8 and 12 weeks, that's when they're gaining loin depth. He's being very naughty. So, I'm not going to cull him today for it, because I think he's good enough to wait and see at 12 weeks. Now, some of that will also depend on when I go through my rest of my litters. Maybe I have a lot of bucks and it's just like, well, he can't compare to those. He definitely can't compare to a New Zealand, so it doesn't make sense to keep him for my New Zealand herd. I don't know if that's the case yet. I haven't really kept track of what's going on during the cold, so in a lot of ways this is like the first visual I'm doing on these guys. You know, not being out here and being miserable. So I'll pull out the last one of this litter. So this is a doe, and she is decent type, but I can tell you right now I'm going to cull her. And that is because, maybe not everyone will agree with this, but she has a little bit of a rasp in her lungs going on. And maybe it's something that would just subside, but it's not something I want to take a chance on. I've played with those games over the years, and it's just not worth it. So I'm just going to cull her for it. But we can still look at her before I do so. She looks a lot like the regular furred buck. I mean, she's cute. She peaks early. You know, she's alright. I would have liked to have kept her. Just to have something to show, because she is Rexford and blue. But it is what it is. You got to think of the betterment of the herd. So, okay, so this litter is actually 9 weeks, and it can be hit and miss. I find 10 weeks. That's when most of my lines get really weird looking, just like ugly stage. But they just turned 9 weeks, so it'll probably be okay. I don't know if I would make any terminal culls at this point, just because, you know, it's right on the edge. I would say 2 weeks ago I liked this litter quite a bit more than the one I just showed you. These guys are out of Nalani, which is an F1 California Rex mix. She's a still that carries EJ. And the dad was Bentley, which is the brother to Jaguar. And they definitely have different characteristics. I would say type-wise I did like these guys more, so we'll see how they look now. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about in my lines. Her fur is terrible. It almost looks like regular fur. Oop. But from my experience, around 12 weeks it'll fall out and she'll have really nice Rex fur. If she doesn't, then I'll cull her. Because I don't need Rex fur that looks like regular fur. I got enough regular fur. Anyways, I like this doe's type quite a bit. It does round a lot right here. I'd like a little further back. I mean, it's hard to look at my New Zealands and then look at these guys, because the New Zealands are just so much better. You know, the Rex are always a work in progress. There's a reason why I breed the New Zealands into the Rex. Yeah, but she's decent. She's a little finer bone than I would like. I expect that from the parents. They're all out of Danny, and Danny is a petite little boy. She's pretty good width. Yeah, nothing glaring to me to cull her for, other than the weird baby fur, which plays a lot into why she looks so pale and orange. When that falls out, if it falls out the way I think it is, like it does with all my lines, it's gonna end up being a really nice orange. But until then, you know, I'll just have to wait a few weeks. She's definitely gonna live to see the 12-week evaluation, I'll say that. Okay, this is from the same litter. I have these tattooed. So this one's a doe. Also Rex fur. Doesn't look that great. I don't love it. It's really round. It's that kind of round that you almost can't tell where it peaks. I don't like that. It's hard to fix. It's ugly. yeah, this would probably be, this is something I will terminally cull today. The other attributes being, I just don't need a brindle. The orange on her is okay. It's not that she's bad, she's just not good enough to keep. And definitely not good enough to wear out to sell, in my opinion. So I'm going to terminally cull this one today. Snake food. Okay, this is a good example of one I'm really iffy on. It's not really bad Rex fur, she is regular furred. Here's the Rex fur. She has no nose spot, which I haven't found to be too prevalent throughout my herd, but it is something to definitely keep in mind. It can be quite genetic. Her dad did not have a nose spot, and his grandmother or great grandmother didn't have a nose spot. Anyways, this doe is also kind of scrawny. She always has been. Her top line's decent, and just me standing here talking about this, I'm just like, wow. What's the question? She's a cull for me. I'm gonna cull her. She's got a really narrow shoulder. That's another thing I haven't really brought up because my shoulders haven't been anything specific going on. But at 6 weeks and at 8 weeks, you can tell by shoulders what's going on there, if it's really bad. Long, so long shoulder would be literally long. Narrow would be, the width of them. And then low would be, how deep they are. And I find if you are shoulders are easy to fix, but if you're going to deal with them, you don't want to deal with more than two bad things at a time. So there's long, there's narrow, and there's low. I would not do all three of those. If they are low and long, I'll mess with it. If it's narrow and long, I'll mess with it. If it's narrow and low, I'll mess with it. But if it's all three, that's just a cull for me. Now this doe, she's right on the edge of being long, but she is narrow and low. So if she wasn't a cull already, she definitely is a cull now. Okay, last one from my litter. It's the only buck in the litter. It's a little lilac. He's a little scrawny. The whole litter kind of was. I think mom just, it was really cold. With the condition of the rabbits wasn't up that good. It's a little bit of my fault. Just taking responsibility on it. So they're a little on the small side, a little scrawny. His fur texture is really nice, but there is no density. It is. It will obviously get better as he ages, but it will probably never be good. So, if you're struggling with density, it might not be something you want to keep. Top line's okay. It comes up here. It's definitely not as round as some of the previous ones. His loin, because he is scrawny, his loin is itty bitty. It's one of those ones where, like, would I put him alone in a cage and see how he grows? Maybe it's just because he's in with others. They're definitely at the age where they need to go into separate cages. I just have to finish building my cages. But I'm going to keep him for now just because, honestly, mostly for the fact so I will have something to show. I do have plenty of bucks, but I just want to see what happens. They're F1 cow or they're F2 cow / Rex, and I don't know, maybe I'll be surprised. I know the cow mom, so his grandmother, the babies didn't really start to glow until around 12 weeks, so maybe I'll be surprised with these ones. I don't know. Okay, so now we're at 12 weeks. We're getting there. Oh my gosh. I only have one 12-week-old litter, and then they're like 13, 14 weeks after that. This guy is very messy. Don't know why that is. So this is an Eco-Rex litter. They're out of ADM Che, which is actually like close to 40% Mini Rex, and then the rest is like Florida White. So she's a pretty small doe. She's a really nice doe. Has some of the best Rex fur in my whole Eco-Rex project. And the buck was Harrah's H608. So I had really high expectations for the litter. Che is pretty nice typed. Her biggest problem is her top line. It's it's round and then it slopes off really dramatic. I don't know if it's, maybe I'll pull her out and show you. But the buck is typed very well. It's very full. It's very nice bone. So that's what I was hoping to see here, and I was not disappointed. They are round, because like I said, I'll pull out mom and show you. But otherwise, I'm really happy with these rabbits. Shoulder's very deep, and it is round here, but even if it was a straight rise, I still think it'd be quite deep. And at this age, loin is starting to come in really nicely on all the breeds. So now these guys have been full since a young age, since like 3-4 weeks. Stand out, like you see them in their nest box, and it's like that's a full rabbit. So you can see really nice little butt there. Nice head, nice, relax girl, nice limbs, other than her dirty feet, nice pads, nice thick bone. Yeah, the only thing I'd really want to improve on it is straighter rise, a little more over the hip. I feel like her loin carriage is really nice for the shape of her spine. Obviously I want it in Rex fur, and I want it to be a different color, but I kind of like the whites too. Something I've noted on this, and I think, like I said, Che has some of the nicest Rex fur in all of my Eco Rex, and the Hera buck, he had really short fur and dense fur, you know, for like regular fur, and these guys have really dense fur. So I'm very excited to see when I breed them to a Rex furred Eco Rex how their babies will come out. There's one other doe and one other buck from this litter that I'll show you, but I'll pull out mom first to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is Che, and she's a brood doe, so she's not super pretty right now. She's had 2 or 3 litters. But you see, it's a little round here, but she comes up. I mean, it's like kind of like the mini Rex top lines you see a lot right now. They're trying to fix it to get that straight rise, but there's still a lot of rounding going on. I think you see that a lot in this rabbit. But she is very deep. I mean, for like being a 5-pound rabbit, she is very deep. She's very full. She has excellent fur. So, yeah, I'm really happy to have her in the Eco Rex herd, and for what she is and what Dad was, I think at least that one that I pulled out so far, really good improvement on top line. I'll pull out the other doe. I think she might actually be the doe that I prefer more, but I can't remember. So we'll see. Okay, so this is the other doe. She's even dirtier than the other one. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, this doe has a nicer top line. It's not as round in the front. It's a bit more of a straight rise. Just think you can see that. I would say she is not as full as the other one, which, for being meat rabbits, you definitely want that. At 12 weeks, they should be having it come in. So I'm definitely noting that on these rabbits. I'll probably keep both does, but it's certainly something I want to note. I mean, she does have nice frame width. Her loin is just a little more narrow than her sister's. Again, really nice bone. They're very similar, just this one has a little bit better top line, that one is a little bit more fuller loin. And then I'll pull out their brother. I did not like him at all 2 weeks ago. Hopefully I'll be surprised today. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so my Eco Rex herd, I try to keep smaller since, I can't show them. It's purely just a meat project, something I do for fun. It brings me a lot of joy, but I don't want it to take up too many holes because I do want to show rabbits. And I have a pretty exceptional buck right now, and then one on retainer, I'll say. So to keep a buck from this generation, I'd have to be pretty impressed with them, I think. Or they'd have to really have something that my does don't have. So let's look at this guy. Right off the bat, he seems not as full, nearly as full as his sisters. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's okay. I mean, he looks a lot like his sisters. Way not as deep. Way more way more shallow, and the loin carriage seems more like the other two. The loin carriage was definitely like more over the hip. This guy's loin carriage seems to be right about middle back. You can put your little fingers in there, little fingers, whatever, big fingers. You can feel the loin. It's like right up in there. And let me try to describe this more. Obviously, there's loin there, but what I'm really feeling for is like where is the most depth of the loin, because that's where they're going to be carrying it a lot of. And this guy's definitely deeper in the middle. It's not big comparison right now because they're only 12 weeks, but I feel like around 16 weeks or 14. I find with the Eagle Rex 14 weeks is the magic spot, because those last 12 to 14 weeks, those last 2 weeks, they gain a lot of loin, and so it's worth it. So I'll probably grow this. Yeah, I'll grow this guy out for another 2 weeks, and we'll see if the loin's any better. I have a feeling it won't be. I mean, it'll be bigger, but it'll be the same situation. Yeah, and he's just not good enough for me to keep for the herd, but I'll grow him out and eat him. So these guys, I don't know anything about these guys in the sense I haven't grown any of their lines. There was a litter of 4 bucks that came with the mom that I had purchased. So I'm growing them out to see what they do. It'll give me some insight to her litter. And I was really impressed with them 2 weeks ago, and then today they feel really scrawny, feel really under condition. I mean, they are in a pen with other rabbits. They're definitely not overcrowded though. I'm not really sure what's going on there. They have food, they have water. Maybe it's just kind of a taxing age for them. I'll definitely keep growing them to see, eventually here, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll get my cages done and they can get split out individually. So for, red New Zealand's aren't as developed as the other New Zealand varieties, but these guys decently cute. I mean, I don't really know much to think about. They're 12 weeks, I don't know much about these lines at all. I'm just growing and seeing. And since they're 4 bucks, that's challenging. I don't need to grow out 4 bucks, so it's gonna be kind of hard. And I have a litter out of their mom right now with 9 more reds in it. I'm not gonna evaluate the rest of them today because, like I said, they just feel kind of scrawny, and this just doesn't seem like a fair time to evaluate them. So I'll check on them in another 2 weeks and see if they're any better. Okay, so this is a pretty big rabbit. She's 12 weeks old. She is an F2 New Zealand Rex. Her mom was an F1 New Zealand Rex, and her dad was in New Zealand. Her dad is the same dad I had to those broken red New Zealands earlier, so really small buck. Mom, decent size. So I am happy with how big these guys are, and I haven't weighed them, but they are very muscular. I think this doe is pretty nice looking. I wish she was deeper, but I really like the straight rise, the turn over the hip. Like I said, at this age, the loin is coming in a lot, so we're looking a lot at that. I know what she looked like 2 weeks ago, obviously, and so she has gained very nice loin. She's filled in a lot. So I'm really excited to see what she looks like at 16 weeks. You can see there's definitely room for her loin to widen. Like I've mentioned before, I believe at this age, that's where they grow loin depth a lot. And around 16 weeks, she'll start widening out again, just from my experience. Yeah, I'll definitely keep still growing her out. 2 weeks ago, she's the only one I liked in the litter, so we'll see if that's still true or not. Okay, so this is the other doe in that litter. There's only 2 that I kept past terminal culling at 6 weeks. Do not like her. I was only interested in keeping her if she was going to have the type to breed into my Rex, because I'm not interested in making brindle New Zealands. I want to breed showable New Zealands, and I mean, it's easy to breed out the brindle, but if I don't have to mess with it, I don't want to. To me, is not impressive at all. She's very round, has not gained much loin at all. Just after looking at her sister, she's very underwhelming, and I really don't like how round she is right here. She's also a lot looser in skin than her sister. Her sister was very firm, which I like in my rabbits. I mean, her frame width is okay. It's not something that would be cull worthy, but I would like to see it wider. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, she's okay, it's just not worth growing out, so she's gonna be snake food today. So this is that buck from that litter, and there's this chestnut buck, and then 2 brindle bucks. Again, the brindles have to be pretty exceptional for me to want to keep. Like, they have to be worthy of either breeding into my Rex program or breeding into my New Zealands, because I don't want to make brindle New Zealands if I don't have to. So this guy, I think he is pretty cute. Wish he had more depth at this age. Like, I think his sister looks a little bit more impressive in that sense. You can also like kind of really see his spine right there, and his loin is very narrow. I don't know why. I don't. You know, the New Zealand dad was new to me. I don't know how his lions grow, so I'm gonna keep growing him. But yeah, his loin is very underwhelming right now. Like, that's his loin, and you can feel almost every bone in it too. I'm gonna grow him out for research purposes, I guess, because right now I'd really like to cull him, but I'm just gonna wait and see. Let's look at his brindle bucks, his brindle brothers. So right off the bat, he feels a lot firmer than his brother, but let's see how his type looks. I really like his orange. His orange is really nice. Yeah, I think his top line's pretty fetching. It could be better, but it's pretty good considering. His loin is a little bit wider than his brother, and not as much. So I'm almost guessing that this has to do with sexual maturity. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I find that sometimes bucks grow differently than does, and that probably has a lot to do with hormones. So I'll keep growing them out. I do like this guy better than the chestnut. Do I like him enough to breed him to my Rex program? Depends how he grows. Right now I would say no. And so then the question is he good enough for my Red New Zealand program? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Let's look at his one last brindle brother. Okay, from just being in my hands, I'd say this guy, body-wise, is a lot more like the chestnut buck. His loin feels a lot more narrow. And you might not be able to tell in the video because he's barely a brindle, but he is a brindle. Yeah, he looks a lot like the chestnut buck, top line wise as well. Maybe not quite as round as the chestnut buck, but where he lacks some loin width, it does seem like he has pretty good loin depth. Put your fingers in there, you can feel it. I would say it's definitely better than the chestnut buck. Again, I'm just gonna grow them out since I don't know how these lines mature and all that, so we'll just have to see. I would say if I had to rank them, I would go the second brindle buck, this brindle buck, and then the chestnut buck. And for the does, obviously the broken chestnut was my favorite. Okay, on to the next litter. Okay, so this guy, he's a pretty good example of what I'm talking about, peak versus loin carriage. I will try to put a picture in here if I can figure out how to. At 6 weeks and at 8 weeks, had a really beautiful top line. It was very straight, very peaked correctly, came off nicely, but he didn't have any loin yet. Now he's growing in loin, and it's not as pretty. The top line's just not as pretty. So now, his peak. People like to say the peak moved. His peak did not move. The skeleton is the way that it is. It's just that his loin carriage, his muscling, is coming in a way that is not necessarily desirable. So, his loin, the bulk of his depth of loin so far, is right up in here. Right up in like center back. And we want it more back here, over the hip. Now, I'm aware that this might have largely to do with age. He's 12 weeks. I don't know anything about these lines in the sense, like, you know, they're very I bought these rabbits at convention. This is their first litter. They're from different rabbitries. There could be a lot of things happening here, and so I'll keep growing him out because I thought his top line was so very beautiful at a young age. Very curious to see how it grows out. Do I need a broken chestnut? No, they're not showable. But if he does turn out really pretty, I'll love to use him in my red program. Right now, though, he's kind of ugly. Not so ugly I'd kick him out of bed for getting crumbs in it or whatever, but I mean, I definitely have Rex that are uglier. Yeah, he's just doesn't look too special right now. But like I said, he used to be, so I'm gonna keep growing him out and see what happens. Okay, so this is the last 12-week one I'm gonna show you. She's actually like 13 weeks. And then we're gonna move on to 16 weeks. If I have a 16-week-old rabbit, I'm not sure. We'll see. But this doe is another Eco-Rex baby. She is out of an F1 Rex/Eco-Rex Shigudi doe and the Hera H608 buck. Now, does she have a pretty top line? You'd have to look at her mom and be like, oh wow, that's a lot of improvement. The top line still needs a lot of help. Her mom is very boxy, and so she is really round. The buck can only improve so much. But where this doe shines is she has a lot to learn. Ever since she was a wee baby, she's very full. And just like that Hera buck seems to be doing to all the babies. I'm still on the edge if I will actually keep her to breed. I'm still going to grow her out for sure. I just have a lot of pretty promising Eco-Rex stuff growing out right now, so, you know, I don't want the herd to get too big. So yeah, we have to wait and see. I do like this doe's head a lot too. Pretty good bone. Yeah, she's cute, but she's not wow. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so this is the only rabbit I have that is 16 weeks. And I'm going to show you things that I look for, but I'll tell you right now, she would normally definitely be a cold for me. So right off the bat, she's tiny. She's 4 months old and probably 5 pounds. That alone, I should cull her for. And then her spine. She is very rounded right here, although not terrible. I've definitely seen worse. I have worse. It's straight out here, and then she just peaks early and it rounds. The thing that her redeeming qualities is her loin carriage. It is still kind of center, but it's definitely farther back than a lot that I see. You know, so that's her little loin right there. She would be deeper if structurally she was deeper. She's quite, I don't think she's that tall. Some of that has to do with her dad being Danny, and he's a petite boy. Her mom is a decent sized doe. Her mom struggled with feeding this litter. That's probably a lot to do with the cold. But my mom had another litter with my friend, and she lost a lot of condition with him. She lost a lot of condition on this litter, especially for barely feeding them. And so that is one of the reasons why I'm keeping this doe, is because I think it's time for her mom to go. Her mom is a beautiful rabbit, but the losing condition so quickly on a litter is not something I'm going to keep breeding for. So she's pregnant right now, and then she's probably going to get axed. The main reason I'm keeping this doe is her fur. She has beautiful fur, and fur is something I'm really struggling right now in my Rex. And she's brindled, so I'm gonna breed her to my F2 Rex New Zealand buck that's a try, and kind of hope for the best. He's not that big either, but I don't know. There's a big plan, right? But what a lot of people fail to see is all the little steps in between. It's not as easy as check. There's a lot of little individual parts. There's a lot of minutia, and maybe there are ways to get around that when breeding. Obviously breeding tries is very difficult because it's a numbers game. It's not as developed. of a variety, where you could go out and buy an otter Rex for, I don't know, $300, and you have a rabbit that's way better than a Tri, probably. But, for us that love Tri, it's a labor of love. Anyways, so at 16 weeks, what I normally be looking at is still loin carriage. So loin carriage, the loin has came in a lot at this point. You would probably see really obviously where it's at. So like I had a doe this past summer, had a really beautiful peak, beautiful straight rise, and it came down nicely. It's about 12 weeks when she started getting that loin. And around 16 weeks, most of that loin depth was right in here, and it was like really boxy. It's very, very ugly. If I figure out how to put pictures in here, I will show you. It is one of the most dramatic ways that I can tell a person that peak and loin carriage are real things and not always perfectly aligned. Because you can also have a rabbit that peaks really early and then has beautiful loin carriage, and that's the most common thing when people say the peak moves back. It's not. The peak hasn't moved back. The appearance of the peak has moved back because the loin carriage has came in and has shaped the rabbit in such a way. Some people do not agree with this, and that's okay. You don't have to change my mind. That's just what I believe and what I will keep preaching. So yeah, tiny doe. I'm gonna keep her. Let me see. She's almost like a. I could use her in the Eco-Rex program, honestly, but and I might at some point. But she's gonna be for the Rex program, and we'll see how it goes. So after 16 weeks, usually if I keep a rabbit by 16 weeks, I'm probably, I'd say 80% of the time, gonna keep it to breed. 16 weeks is a lot of time to invest in a rabbit, and I feel very confident in my evaluation skills. So if there's something at 16 weeks that I just do not like, I'm not going to keep it. And if it makes it past 16 weeks and say around 20 weeks, there's something I do not like, then there's probably something I really do not like. But a lot of times, honestly, when it gets to that point, if I don't keep something, it's because I just have too many rabbits. You can't keep them all, unfortunately. So let's look at something around 20 weeks. Okay, so this is the closest thing I have to 20 weeks. She's 22, so she's like right at 5 months. It's time for her to give bred. She's an Eco-Rex doe. I don't have any Rex around this age, but she is Rex fur. Beautiful Rex fur. She's out of Che, actually. That one I pulled out earlier. At this point, at this age, like we've already gone through all of the really big detail stuff of the structure of a rabbit. So at this point, you're really trying to hone in on specifics. So at this age, that's when I really start to look at fur quality. They should be through junior prime or maybe in the middle of it, depending on your lines. This one is kind of in the middle of it. Another thing would be, again, loin carriage. See how well it's developed. At this point, your loin width, it is what it is. Some people will be like, oh, to fill in later. If it's not full at this point, yes, it will keep getting wider, but it will never be full. And I find that to be true even at a really young age. If they're not full in the loin, they just never are going to be. This girl, she's got a good booty on her. A little out of condition right now, which is from the molt. Since she has really nice fur, I find rabbits with nice Rex fur, it's more taxing on them to molt. You can do things to help them molt, like warm them, sunflower seeds and all that. I'm not one to do that stuff with my rabbits. I'm just a you make it or you don't kind of breeder, and so I don't feel the need to give them special things. Another thing that you would be looking for at this age, especially if you are having a problem with fine bone, is their feet pads. At this point, if they already have sore hocks, I would X that, get rid of it. It means it's too fine boned, and or the fur on the feet are not thick enough. As you can see, this doe, even though she has beautiful Rex fur, her little feet pads are still nice and covered. Beautiful, beautiful pads. No wear at all. And I actually believe that's largely to do with breeding the Florida White-In. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I believe. And I found that to be the same in my Rex when I bred New Zealand's in. The bone got a lot better, but the feet pad got a lot thicker fur on it. Something else I would be looking at this age. I mean, you should have already seen it at this point, but definitely looking at their head. That snipiness, especially on a buck. You don't want a buck with a snipy head. That's just you. But like this doe's an Equrex, so she has a really small head, but proportionally it's not snipey. I think she also might have some of the mini gene in her because her ears are pretty small too. Anyways, let's pose her. So at this age, your depth probably is what it is. Same thing with your loincloth, as I said. Like, it might grow a little bit more, especially with Rex, because Rex are 4-class breed. They mature a bit faster than the 6-class breeds. Now, you can breed your herd differently, like where you want them to mature slower. I don't think that's a great idea because, you know, our max senior weight is at 6 months. So you don't want them to grow too fast, but you also don't want them to grow too slow. Meeting senior minimum weight at 8 months is dumb. You're not showing a rabbit for 2 months, or you're lying and showing it as a junior, and you're having to wait even longer to breed them. And it's just not something you should want to breed for. Would you relax, 11? Anyways, so yeah, this doe, I think she's also probably ready to be bred. She's a little grumpy, but yeah, really deep, really a nice width. Something I would note that I would want to change in this doe is peek a little farther back. She has a really similar top line to her mom, but for what her dad was, you know, I'm pretty happy with it. She's gonna get bred to Jim Hopper, which is my Sable Martin, who I believe is also brindled buck, and he has a really flashy top line. I'm gonna pull him out too because he's another good example of the loin carriage changed his top line a bit, and we should take a look at it. I've gone through all the ages at this point. You know, at this point they're 5 and 5.5 months. I'm not really evaluating them after this point. Everything for me is getting bred. Not to say there isn't things to look at as a senior, but type-wise, you've probably covered everything. You know, what you would be looking for in a senior is the feet pads again. Make sure they're not getting sore hocks. How well they're keeping their condition. Like, bucks, once they get randy enough, they can lose condition a lot because all they want to do is hump. Flesh of skin, I like a really firm rabbit. I don't like rabbits that get really chuffy, like loose skin. I don't like that. So I definitely breed away from that. Another thing would be how long your molt is, and you know, the timing of a molt. For me, my senior molt tends to happen from 6.5 to 7.5, sometimes even 8 months, and I definitely don't like it lasting that long, especially in severe weather. Like if it's really hot outside and they're molting like that, that's not fun for them. Another thing would, and I mentioned this before, would be condition of the does. I breed my does young, and if they lose a lot of condition, that's something I note, especially on their first litter. If they've already lost a ton of condition, I don't want to keep breeding for that. So for me to keep that, they would have to offer something quite exceptional. I don't really run into that problem too much because I have bred away from it, and I believe in breeding the New Zealand in. Fur quality, again, as a senior, you know, senior rabbits. A senior rabbit that's in senior prime, it's really hard to beat on a Rex table, show table, especially if it has good type as well. So if I don't show many seniors just because I don't feel like I make seniors that are good enough to compete, so I'd rather breed them. Hopefully that will change soon. I'm sure the past year and a half, I haven't made a ton of showable rabbits. Hopefully changing that some this year. We'll see. Yeah, so I'm gonna pull out just a couple more rabbits to go over, not really age specific, but yeah. Okay, so Jim Hopper here, he is 25 weeks, so think he turned 6 months today or tomorrow, something like that. But he's a really good example of when he was a little younger, he had a really nice top line, peaked, you know, it's still a little early, but pretty nice, straight rise, curved over pretty nice. But based on the parents, I expected his loin to come in like this. But as you can see, the depth of the loin is a bit like right over the peak here. And it carries back a little bit until about right here, where really I'd want it to be, you know, if this is the peak, so not even peaked correctly, if this is the peak, I'd still rather see the depth of his loin more over here. And if he did peak correctly, which would be more like right here, then I'd want the depth of the loin even farther back, more right here. So basically, imagine still the same shape, went up like this, peaked here, and then rounded over, right? And so he had a really pretty top line as a baby, even if it was a little early. But his loin came in and made it a little uglier. It's not bad. It's definitely, I mean, he's gonna be my herd buck for my Eco-Rex. It's definitely not bad. It could just be better. And I think some of the does that I'm breeding him to will help with this. And he's at that point where he just wants to breed, so he's a little tough to pose. I wish he had more loin width at the top. Would you guess? Right. So see how he's kind of empty right there? His feet could be a little wider too, but his frame is good size. I haven't weighed him, but he's probably at the max of what I want my Eco-Rex. But yeah, I would just like his loin to be a little fuller, which I think that will happen with his does. Okay, so this is the last rabbit. Thank God, because I'm a little over it at this point. This is Bentley. I showed him at convention this past year. I think he got like 23rd or something like that. He's okay. He's out of one of my favorite does of all time, Bugatti. And he's out of Danny, of course, because everything is out of Danny right now. I kept him and his brother Jaguar, which I mentioned Jaguar through some of the litters. Jaguar did not keep very good condition, but Bentley did a lot better at it. You're a baby, Eldon. Yeah, he just did a lot better at keeping condition. He's a little hard to pose now because he's a senior and he wants to hump everything, and he's not about that posing life. He's on the small side because Danny was a very petite boy. Bugatti wasn't that big. She was right at 8 pounds, which she was like a F3 mini Rex. So, I mean, he's not that far removed from the mini Rex yet. But, so at this age, he's very much a senior. I think he's like 8 months. And, so at this age, I'm looking at fur quality, how well they're keeping up condition-wise. Like I said, he's doing better than Jaguars. Still not perfect, though. He's pretty bony back here, and some of that's because his loin is a lot right up in the center, right around his peak. Something else that I've kind of been paying attention to is how their color develops. So I noticed, especially in mini Rex, it happens a lot where they get splotchy and they end up really light around here, or just splotchy throughout. I have a few like that are closer to my mini Rex stuff. He is actually done pretty well. You can see a little bit of this right here, and I believe that's more of the agouti banding. I don't think you can see it in the video at all, actually, but you can see it in person. He looks the very same as he did at 5 months old, except that he's a little fuller, just a little bit fuller width-wise. But his depth hasn't gone anywhere. Even though he's a little out of condition, you know, he looks the same. And that's what I want. I do not want a rabbit that looks considerably different a couple months into senior. That makes it hard to breed. Especially if you're like pulling out a rabbit and you're basing it off of that, but you forget what it looked like as a junior. I want consistency. So I still look at his junior pictures live, you know, looking at him in his prime, but it's nice to see him as a senior and be like, oh yeah, that's what he looks like. See, so something I'm happy with is that he really kept his loin width about him. Jaguar did not. Jaguar's like really empty. Although Jaguar's deeper, I'll give him that. But this guy also has a prettier top line. I mean, he peaks a little early, but he carries it pretty well over the hip still. Where Jaguar's very boxy. Okay, he's done. I'm done. I hope you found this video helpful. I know it was a lot. I know it's long. Went through a lot of different things. But yeah, if you have questions, just ask.